Don't wait till the battle's over. Don't wait till the struggle ends. Shout now, shout now, right now. Shout now, shout now. Don't wait till you make it.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PHILLIP Show. I am super excited. I say that every time, and I mean it. Grab your coffee so we can get started. One of the things that I love about the show today is this is kind of the epitome of what we do here at the PHILLIP Show. My passion is really listening to people's stories, the authentic journeys, and how do they get to where they are, and how do other people find the courage to navigate their own journey. And today we're talking about finding your voice. So striving to equip and empower our voices with healing purpose, healing preparation, and healing power. Please welcome composer, coach, and owner of LCH Studios, Dr. Laurie Hicks. Doctor.
Hey.
How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am doing well. Hold on. Let's just do some housekeeping for the people in the back. Is that a Christmas tree?
It's a miniature tree, but it's decorated in pink and green, which is in celebration of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority's 114th Founders Day. So I figured I'd leave it up there a little bit longer.
Oh, okay. It's getting some camera time. Come on,
the rest
AKA.
of my decorations are down though. It's just my little
Okay.
AKA tree.
Okay. So you bless his little heart. So Dr. Laurie, you are involved in so much music. You have LCH Studios where you empower and heal through the voice. I'm going to give it to you just really quickly. Tell me, what is LCH Studios and what do you do?
LCH Studios is all things voice. What I do as a musician, I write for the voice, I write music for the voice, I perform for the voice, and then I coach and teach for the voice. So LCH Studios, which stands for Laurie Celeste Hicks, encompasses all those aspects of how I have trained and studied and all the gifts that I've been blessed with to help cultivate all things voice. So yeah, it's all about the voice.
That's amazing. You said you're AKA and you're a doctor. What school did you go to?
I did my doctorate at University of Michigan in vocal performance. I did my master's at Bowling Green and my bachelor's at Kentucky State University.
KSU.
Thoroughbred.
So one of the things that I want you to help me and help the audience with is going through the journey of your decisions. A lot of times, even today, we look at musicians and we really think of the things that we see on social media. You know, there's a very guarded and kind of segmented audience of things that are outside of the pop world. How did you decide to use your talents and your gifts, but not in the traditional, if you will, pop sense?
Well, I'll be honest, I wanted to use it in the traditional gospel. For me, it was traditionally gospel and R&B coming up through high school. And I had a girl group in college, Black Sands, and then we were one accord. So we sang all the hits and things like that. But that was my goal, was to study that. And when you study voice in college, it's automatically classical voice. So I was kind of forced into taking voice lessons because I was a music major. We had to sing the Italian, German, French. I couldn't stand it. We had to do the operas. I didn't want to do it. And I remember butting heads with Mr. Smith, my first voice teacher, a lot.
Okay, hold on, just a pause. So everybody out there, the reason why I am so excited about talking to Dr. Laurie, I haven't seen her, spoken to her outside of online in years, and we went to college together. So the people that she's talking about, the locations that she's talking about, are very familiar, and I know exactly what she's talking about. Yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah, we had to, and I actually talk about that. I wrote a lecture from the Black church to the opera stage,
Okay.
and how in having to acclimate to studying classical voice or studying voice professionally, we had to study classical. So I bucked against the system. I did it because they gave me a full ride. Then I got a full ride to get a master's. I did it just because I could, but it wasn't until my voice teacher put me up for this gala, and I sang a couple arias, and I had already written some spirituals, and I sang those, and the audience went crazy. They were, I mean, and I'm like, y'all really like this? So
because you weren't sold on it yet.
Nah.
So people liking what you're doing, you're like, oh,
really? Okay,
oh,
you understand that? Okay. And then I got hooked. I got bit by the opera bug. I immersed myself in it. I started studying all the languages. I went to Italy and France and studied. And then that's when I just focused, like, I'm not singing anything else but opera. And I found that my voice fit. And remember, I could never blend in choir. I was always sticking out. That's why. That's why, because I was supposed to be singing opera. But actually, full circle, though, as I continue to pursue opera, it doesn't leave much room for the other things that I still enjoy. I was still a church girl. I was still an R&B 90s baby, you know. Yeah. So where I am now, and I know we haven't really jumped there yet, but I have found myself coming full circle to I've done all the things, you know, you're supposed to do in opera. I've checked all the boxes, and it still didn't hit. You know, it still didn't speak to who I was at my core. Yeah. So LCH Studios is also a part of me being able to find my voice and coach all genres, write in all genres, perform all genres that really speak to who I am, again, at my core. And there's a term, I need to get it trademarked, so don't y'all take it. But there's a term I came up with. There's a term that I came up with called jazz opera soul pop. And for me, that's jazz, opera, soul, hip, and pop. And those are all just about, I forgot gospel, but it's all inclusive. Yeah. And that's the kind of mashup, you know, genre kind of singing that I want to be able to do, as well as to be able to coach singers of all those genres. So full circle. Yeah. I went hard in opera because you have to. You're not going to be able to develop that. It's like the Olympics of singing. Yeah. And
you have to, and let me know if I'm mistaken, you have to be committed to the training that you have in opera. And let me know if this is just a misnomer. But a lot of times when people sing either gospel, R&B, or what have you, if you have an opera instructor, they'll say that you're hurting your voice. Is that correct? And what does that mean?
I find because the idea is the most protected or the healthiest way of singing is classical, anything outside of that is damaging. And they're also gauging it against what has typically been done. So I do not ascribe to that anymore. I was of the mindset, I only sing opera. I don't sing gospel. I don't sing those. I did become her for a little while until I got a call to sing at Carnegie Hall and to sing gospel.
And you said, well,
I'll be singing gospel today. But I couldn't use microphones. It was an orchestra and a 90 voice choir. And without my technique, I would not, but without growing up in the church, I wouldn't have been able to apply the style. And without my opera technique, I wouldn't have been able to cut through all the Yeah. So again, it all comes full circle. There's nothing wasted in God's economy, but I do not ascribe to that. And anything done with the right approach is going to be, and any athlete, you can come down on your, you know, I've injured myself singing opera. Just because I sing opera doesn't mean I'm exempt from vocal injury. It's all sport, and it just depends on if you're taking care of yourself, if you're applying the right pressure and not putting too much pressure on yourself in whatever sport that you're doing.
Did you receive any pushback from people when you decided to pursue opera?
I got cute. Or what are you
Mm.
gonna do with that? Nobody's buying opera.
Oh.
Nobody's selling opera CDs. My parents were very supportive. My mother always loved classical,
Mhm.
and supported me when I went to Italy for the first time and all those things. So they were always supportive. They really wanted me to go into accounting. But they were like, well, if you're going to do music, then do your thing.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, I had to go all the way. I had to put all the time in. I would practice for 4 hours a day.
Mm.
Um, and any pushback that I would get would be more so them expecting me to do gospel, expecting me to do R&B, and I'm
Mm.
coming in with all these languages and things like that. So it kind of the black tax, if you would be
Mm.
there
Yeah.
a little bit. But most of my environments were very nurturing and were not exclusive, but they were really
Mm.
to be more inclusive. But it still took some time.
Wow.
Mhm.
Because I can understand that because I think there's well, from a financial standpoint,
Mhm.
because a lot of times people just see pop, R&B, gospel. They see people in front of everything, and they don't really, if they're not in that world, they don't see people doing opera.
Mhm.
I think that would be a huge opportunity for confusion because if you're not, I liken it to African American skiing. If you don't, if you don't see that world, you'll think there is no success in that world because you don't see it.
Yeah. And what was the beautiful thing is the more and more I got into it, the more of us I saw. We're
Mm.
all over. We
Yeah.
are all over opera.
Yeah.
We've been writing operas since the Harlem Renaissance, since the 1800s, really. We've been
Mm.
writing our own operas, starting our own opera companies.
Hmm.
So it's just, we're just not the ones writing the books and teaching the classes yet. But
Yeah.
we have been all over opera, and our footprint is all throughout. So I did have to kind of find my own identity, not trying to fit somebody else's. But
Hmm.
I viewed opera as the jazz and hip hop of classical music. Like you were really able to express raw emotion when you really got
Mm.
into it, when you really studied,
Yeah.
when you knew what you were talking about, when you knew what was going on. It is juicy. It's juicy. It's
Not juicy.
ratchet.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. See, it sounds
yeah,
so pretty because you don't know what they're saying.
yeah, but
You're just like, oh, that just seems so tragic. And then you read the translation, you're like, oh,
yeah,
no
yeah.
clue. Yeah.
He done her dirty, and
Right, right, right. Right.
she's out for murder. Yeah. So I started to fall in love with the stories,
Yeah.
and they became just as exciting for me as the music I grew up listening to.
Mm.
But yeah, there is still a very strict discipline in
Discipline's a good word.
performing it. Yeah, you can't get too far. You're not going to bust a run in the middle of Mozart unless Mozart wrote.
Oh, right, right,
Yeah,
right. Well,
stuff like
before, because I know some people may be listening, and I want to get into your vocal training and your classes and the teaching and everything. But before we lose people, like, well, I don't sing opera. What
Mhm.
you do is you train voices,
Yep, yep.
and
Honestly,
those voice. Go
bored
ahead,
opera.
man.
I'm bored. I would be happy if I never had to teach another opera aria. And the reason for that is, again, that's only one part of
Hmm.
so I love to get in with voice speakers,
Hmm.
beginning voices. I just worked with a music lawyer the other day who just wants to be able to sing better in his church. I've worked with people coming back from injuries. People, I have a lot of students right now that have recovered from COVID. So
Oh,
I've worked with the whole gamut. Actually, in my masterclass tonight, I'll be talking about exercises that are good for rebuilding your lung capacity after COVID.
huh.
But I work with the whole gamut. I will say I prefer adults. I don't,
Okay.
my gifting for the youngins is limited, limited patience.
I was about to say, I got my I get it.
I love them. And I can get in good with them, have fun, and we're out. But the week after week, the day after day, the adults, because I'm a bit of a drill sergeant, and I like to get in there and get my hands on you and really get to the core of what's going on. But singing is so wrapped up in who we are as people. There is quite a bit of peeling away and therapy and holistic approach that I end up having to do in our sessions.
Gotcha.
Did I answer your question? I feel like
You did. No, you did, because I think you opened up the curtain, and it's like, you know what, I am proficient in this as well as these other things, because I didn't want people to hear and say, well, I don't sing opera, I'm not interested in opera, so I don't want to do that. I don't sing classical, I'm not interested in classical, so I'm not interested in, whatever. You get to the person's voice, whatever their interest is regarding using it. You help them to do it and discipline it in a way that'll be productive for them.
And that's why I think people are intimidated with vocal training, because many times a classical trainer will get you to sound like this. This technique is to get you to have this specific tone. Yeah. For me, technique is, that's the 5S. Support, what's your breath doing? Strength, how are you powering it? Space, what space do you need to keep it open? Smile, and the placement, and the submit, how can you express it? So these are just 5 elements that go into all kinds of performance, and you just break it down to what you need, what this particular voice needs to be balanced, to be supported, to have the space it needs to be free, to project, and then to be expressive.
Now, do you evaluate somebody's voice? Do you have them tell you what they wanted? Well, if I were your client or your student, would I have to tell you how I want to use my voice in order for you to know which direction to go with me? Or
with this private training, usually the customer is always right, because I'm usually dealing with people who are already, in a certain vein. If they come to me raw and they're like, what should I be singing? If they seek me out for that, then I can do that. But usually I'm working with people who are already either doing some part-time singing. They know what they like. They're already getting paid to sing. And I'm having to help build a technical foundation under what they're currently doing. So I usually try to steer away from that and say, you should be singing this or you should be singing that. That's not my lane in this kind of training. It's how can I help you do what you're doing more efficiently? I won't even say better, but without tension. If you're getting up there 8 shows a week, or if you're getting up there, night after night, and you're teaching during the day, then you're having to sing at night. How can we protect this thing so you can do what you do without fear of losing it, and fear of getting hoarse? And can I get up there and do my next gig or sing my next service? So it's those types of things I want to eliminate through technical study.
I love it. And I think that just opened it up for everybody. Now, listen, I know that everybody wants me to ask this question, so I'm gonna.
Okay.
Is it true that everybody can sing? And if not, how do you know? Everybody out there, you're welcome. I asked. You're welcome.
Okay. So my philosophy is, if you can make a sound, you can sing. You may not be on pitch. You may need more work on pitch and things like that, on technique. But the singing is just so natural. It's just as natural as speaking. And for something like that, which brings joy, and truly the act of singing is a healing act. So I would never tell anyone that they can't engage in, I don't care how loud or how off pitch you are, because I've worked with people who I've had to work them up to the right pitch. They had to pay for some extra lessons, but we got them there. And it's all a process. It's all a process.
Yeah.
But when it does click, I have one young man who, when I was just a grad student, I'm not even gonna name his name, of course, but he could not match pitch. Yeah. Right now, his brother is singing professionally. Okay.
That's
and
beautiful.
I did not give up on him. He told me what he wanted to do. It was my job to teach him. I said, okay, first thing we need to do is to build your ear. And that's what we worked on all semester. And then he went on from that. Then he started to develop his tone, and now he is singing professional opera. And I didn't tell him he had to sing opera.
Sure.
but he just wanted to sing. So everyone can sing. If you can make a sound, if you can speak, you can sing. But some people may need a little bit more work. And
Yeah.
so
No, I love it. Because I think that is a really great opportunity um, to realize in every facet of life.
yeah.
Just
If I can walk,
because
I
you're
can
not
run. I may not
exact.
be, if I can walk, I can run. I may not run a marathon yet, but if I worked at it, I could achieve the goal of running a marathon. That to me, it's the same thing.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. So tell me about getting to you and your courses. How do you do your courses? When are they? You have such a huge presence on social media with your morning warm ups and things like. Tell us all about what you're doing.
Well, I'm building. I feel like I'm still in the process of building, trying things out, what kind of works for me. I
Mhm.
still have my day job where I'm teaching. I'm a college professor. So I have to make sure I'm doing things that I can give my students the time they need, and I can also focus on the brand and the business. So I give my content, my free content are my warm ups. That you can find on YouTube as well as all my social media platforms. And that's for everybody to
And
get
I want to say,
everybody singing.
go ahead.
Yeah, no, yeah, to get everybody singing, to get everybody in the mindset of building, running drills and building up certain aspects of your voices. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I love those. I love those. And I think they get to the heart of what you've been talking about. Everybody can sing and everybody has the opportunity to do it. And you can find your voice, and those vocal warm ups really open it up to everybody. You can do it in the comfort and the privacy of
Yeah.
your own home with your internet tutor right there, walking right alongside you, giving
Yeah.
you, encouragement and all these things through all of these exercises. So I really enjoy that.
And they're not meant to be like obstacle courses.
Well,
They're
they
really
are.
meant to be kind of almost mindless,
They're
running through the
not.
drills. And okay, you know what? I may not be able to stretch to that note today. I'll try it again next time.
Right. I'm going to have to rewind on this one.
Right. So I'm continuing to build that content. I'm scoring my gospel exercises into a sheet, a score book, or music book. So that'll be a resource for teachers, things like that. On my website, I have all my sheet music, which is a resource for teachers to give to their students to sing. My vocal training every month on like the third Monday. I have a free masterclass that's open to everybody. Tonight's class is full. Thank God. Praise be.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do my best to get through everybody. I try to take my time with each person. So we'll see how long tonight's class goes, but I'm also working towards putting a regular schedule of regular workshops, vocal technique workshops, and other master classes that people can, more intensive master classes where I spend more time with each person. So that information will be coming. It's not out yet, but there will be a whole schedule. And my boot camp, which is also on my website, it's really a 5-day self-paced training module, if you will. Each one of the S's has its own video. It's got exercises. I lecture. I talk about how the voice works. I have diagrams of lungs and the abdomen and all the muscles that
Wow.
go into the voice. And I really try to break it down into tidbit information, my 15 years of study and teaching into about 3 hours of content, and get right to it. So it's mainly for beginners and people who want to understand more about how the voice works. Again, it's self-paced, but I'm developing workshops where I'll be taking people through each one of those modules so they can get even more in-depth exercises and whatnot. And then also coming this summer will be a vocal retreat, which it will be
Oh.
a weekend of small group of singers, very intimate, but it will give me more time to dig into the background behind the singers, what things might be getting in the way, more, again, that holistic approach,
Yeah.
and getting to the lifestyle of singing. What nutrition is good for us if we're going to be performing, if we're on the road, How can we
Mm.
take care of our voices, stay hydrated? Stretches and body exercises that we can do daily that don't require us using our voices, but prepare our voices, our bodies to support our voices. So, vocal retreats will be coming this summer. And yeah, just going for a real holistic, addressing the whole singer
Yeah.
in different ways, in very different ways.
What is your passion?
The voice. I don't know how to the voce.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's really great. That's really. It's good that you know that. It sounds like it, and it sounds like you're passionate, really about helping people develop that. What advice would you give somebody about finding their voice?
I would say do a lot of singing. Take
Mm,
the confines off, take trying to sound like somebody else, take what you used to sound like out of it. Just get back to the joy of
mm,
singing and using your voice. That's where your voice comes from. And what are you uniquely inspired to use it for? I have some people who maybe don't have a gospel sound or a gospel voice, but they love singing gospel and they talk themselves out of it because they don't have a big belt voice or things like that. But ministry is ministry.
yeah.
And the way you minister, the way you use your voice is going to minister to somebody.
Mm,
You may not be at that same church, or you may not have the same kind of audience of what you've been around for the most part. But when I do my recitals, I'm doing a plethora of, I'm doing opera, I'm also doing spirituals, I'll do musical theater, and then I'll get some gospel in there.
mhm,
And for me, I do it the way I feel it,
mm,
and that ministers to a different kind of audience. Some people might think it's boring, or she's not doing running and this and that and the other, how we get to stereotypical. Right?
yes.
But I have people coming up to me after my recital, oh my God, in tears. I've
Mm,
never heard that done that way before, or that just spoke to me. And it really doesn't matter what songs I sing or what language I'm in. When people come up to me and tell me, you bless me and you
mm,
touched my heart, they're not going to remember what I said or how many languages I sang in. They're going to remember how I made them feel. So
mm,
if we can find our voice and how we want to make people feel, if we want to inspire them, if we want to uplift them, use it the way you know how to use it, and it's going to grow from there. But yeah, we really have to start, just get back to the joy of it and fall in love with our own voices. Because I'll tell my students, if you don't want to listen to you, why should we listen to you?
and that's the truth.
Just if you don't love to hear you, I love the sound of my own voice. I didn't used to.
Mm,
I did not used to. My teacher, Miss Merritt, Myra Merritt at Bowling Green, she made me watch my videos. She would record all my lessons and on VHS, and they would just stack up. She's, are you watching your videos? And I said, no, Miss Merritt, I haven't watched them. She said, you need to watch your videos. And I made myself watch it. She made me watch it, and I hated it at first. And it
mm,
took maybe a year and a half before I was like, oh, you know what? That was pretty good. And
mm.
then all of a sudden it was like, ooh, sing, girl. Okay.
Is
Yes.
is
That's
that
you.
why you're so big on holistic? Because you had to come from a self journey in order to be comfortable with your placement of your voice and who you were in order to move forward?
And am still finding that in
Mm,
different areas.
yeah.
Like I mentioned before, I had a vocal injury myself. I was in the Metropolitan Opera competition. I was I was 30 years old, so you couldn't go beyond 30. So it was my last time to be able to compete. I got sick and I was like, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Mm,
And should have sat my tail down and went home, and ended up putting so much pressure on myself, I hemorrhaged. So the
wow.
rehabilitation after that was complete vocal rest. It really messed with my head because
Mm,
I was afraid to kind of sing the way I was singing, thinking that I had done too much or had gone too hard. But you were sick and you knew you should not have been using your
yeah.
voice. And so yeah, I had to work myself back mentally, but I thought I had to work back physically. And it took longer for me to work back mentally to be like, oh, that's what's been in my way. And then other things in life, I had my son, I had a C-section. So I'm getting real personal, but the wear and tear on your body of having a child, and then I'm also a single mother, so being up all night and then trying to rehearse during the day, trying to maintain some semblance of trying to go to auditions, and you got a 3-month-old, and it was a lot. And I'm not crying violins or anything, because my son has his passport and we roll out. So I have conditioned him to be able, okay, mommy's got to sing. I'm gonna need you to whoop the whoop.
Yeah.
So, but there was no handbook for it. There was no blueprint. And I was really just trying to figure it out. And that was a part of finding my voice as well. What's going to work with me? I'm a full-time professor at 28. I was 28 years old when I started teaching, and I got my doctorate. So what does that look like for me? I was 35 when I had my son. Now, what does it look like as a full-time teacher, performer, composer, and a single mom? What does that look like now? And how can I use my voice? After I lost my parents, it took a toll on my singing and my mental, the grief and my mental approach. So all of it, I have had to rebuild my voice from life challenges more so than just singing. It's been life that has kind of knocked me back, and I've had to rebuild my sound, rebuild my mindset. And I tell my students, the mind is the strongest muscle that you sing with. If my mind ain't there, I'm going to struggle with the voice. But if I find myself thinking negatively or already kind of working against myself, I got to tackle that first. How do I think about this note? If I think it's too high, then I'm going to strain myself trying to get there.
Absolutely.
Just something just as simple, that seems as simple as that. But it starts with the mind. It starts with how you see yourself, how you perceive your own voice. And if you don't like to hear it, if you can't embrace it, you're going to be, you're going to lack the confidence to share it. And my voice was not for me. God did not give me this gift for me. He gave it to share for other people. So if I keep it to myself, I'm scared and I don't like how I sound, then I'm not walking in my ministry, and I'm depriving others of that opportunity. So
well, I am very glad that you are further along in your journey to finding your voice and are able to share that with so many who are on the journey for themselves. So thank you so much for being here, being so transparent. Wow.
It was so quick. It's fast.
I know, right? These shows go by quickly, but there's so much that you packed in there. And hopefully, I guess I'll ask you this now. Will you come back and share more with us?
Absolutely. I'm learning to share more of my story. We as opera singers, we're taught to come out in the perfect dress and the perfect hair, and we present the perfect sound. My story is far from perfect. And how I got here is far from perfect. And I am really learning that it is really going to help somebody else, be able to share their own story and go further on their journey. So we all figuring this thing out together.
Listen, we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure this thing out, sis. Dr. Laurie, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. I love you.
Love you back. That's Dr. Laurie, finding your voice. And wow, it's not voice. Number one is not just for some. Getting in touch with your physical voice is for everyone, no matter what you're doing, no matter what lane you're in, no matter what segment, what genre, it doesn't matter. But also in your life, finding your voice is a journey. And as usual, you are the best you in the world. And we will see you next time here on The PHILLIP Show.
Don't